The chamber of the Galactic Council was older than most stars known to humanity. Its vast walls curved upward like the inside of a hollow moon, layered with symbols carved by species long extinct. Light flowed instead of shining, drifting in soft colors that shifted with the emotions of the beings inside. Thousands of seats floated in careful patterns, each designed for a different body, gravity, or atmosphere. At the center, a wide circular platform waited in silence. The human delegation stood there alone. Director Kim kept his hands clasped behind his back. His posture was straight, calm, and deliberate. He had learned long ago that fear was often louder than words. Beside him stood Ambassador Mira Lee, her expression neutral, her dark eyes steady as she looked out across the countless alien representatives. Strategist Sun Park stood half a step behind them, his gaze focused not on the council members themselves, but on the subtle movements of their aides, translators. In data-shadows, the silence stretched. Then the council spoke, not with one voice, but with many layered together through machines and ancient rituals. The sound was deep and heavy, filling the chamber like pressure building before a storm. Humanity, the voice said, you have been summoned to hear judgment. Myra Lee did not bow. Takim did not speak. Sun Park did not move. The council continued. For 3 centuries, you have expanded beyond your assigned borders. You have grown economically influential, technologically central, and politically disruptive. Your presence now affects trade, security, and stability across 1/3 of known space. A massive hologram appeared above the platform. It showed glowing lines of trade routes, energy networks, and data channels. Many of them passed through human-controlled systems. You were permitted to grow, the voice said, because you were useful. A ripple of amusement passed through several alien sections. Myra Lee felt it, but her face remained still. However, the council continued. Usefulness does not grant independence. The image changed. Lines dimmed. Roots vanished. Entire sectors faded into darkness. Kim understood at once. Everyone did. Blackmail. The council laid out its demands with cold precision. Humanity would dismantle its deep space fleets. Human research into advanced artificial intelligence would be placed under council oversight. Human colonies beyond approved zones would be frozen, their populations capped and monitored. In return, humanity would retain limited access to trade, medicine, and energy distribution. The meaning was clear. Submit, or be cut off. As the voice spoke, Mira Lee watched the faces around the chamber. Some species showed open satisfaction. Others watched with curiosity. A few looked uneasy, but none spoke in humanity's defense. When the council finished, silence returned. It waited for fear. It waited for protest. It waited for pleading. Instead, it received nothing. Kim did not react. His breathing was slow and even. Mira Lee folded her hands in front of her, calm as stone. Sun Park lowered his eyes, not in submission, but in thought. Seconds passed, then minutes. The council shifted. Do you understand the terms? The voice asked. Yes, Myra Lee said. Her voice was clear and level. Carried by translators into 100 languages, then you will respond, the council said. Mira Lee met the center of the chamber with her gaze. Humanity has heard your position. That was all. A low murmur spread through the council seats. Is that your answer? The voice demanded. Our answer will be delivered through proper channels, Kim said calmly. The chamber stirred. The council had expected resistance or surrender, not restraint. Delayed answers were unusual. Silence was unsettling. You have 72 standard hours, the voice said. After that, enforcement will begin. The light in the chamber shifted. Turning colder, your presence is dismissed. The platform beneath the human delegation moved smoothly, guiding them toward the exit tunnel. As they departed, Myra Lee sensed the weight of thousands of alien eyes watching them, trying to read fear where none was shown. When they were beyond the chamber, the tunnel sealed behind them with a low hum. Only then did Sun Park speak. "It has begun," he said quietly. Take Him nodded. "Send the signal." Sun Park tapped a small device at his wrist. No dramatic display followed. No alarms sounded. The message did not announce itself. It was a single line of data, sent across quantum channels toward Earth. Execution phase authorized. The human transport vessel drifted away from the council station in silence. Outside, the structure loomed like a sleeping giant, unaware that it had just struck something far stronger than it understood. Back on Earth. The message arrived within seconds. In a secure room beneath layers of stone and steel, global leaders gathered around a simple table. There were no flags, no grand symbols, only screens showing data flowing in steady streams. Admiral De Choi read the message once. Then he closed his eyes. "So," he said softly, "they chose control." No one argued. The room did not fill with panic. There were no raised voices. Plans unfolded quietly, like a machine starting after years of waiting. "Begin withdrawal," one leader said. "Step by step," another added. Admiral Choi nodded. "No threats. No speeches. No warnings." Above them, the world continued as normal. Cities glowed. Ships launched. Data flowed, and deep within humanity's shared systems, processes long dormant began to wake. Across the galaxy, council analysts watched human networks closely. They expected frantic traffic, emergency rerouting, desperate trade requests. Instead, they saw something strange. Human nodes began disconnecting, not crashing, not failing, leaving. Trade hubs once managed by human systems shifted to neutral mode. Navigation assistance went offline in an orderly sequence. Maintenance drones returned to human. Space-empowered down council officials dismissed it as preparation for surrender. "They are tightening their belt," one analyst said. "They will crawl back," another replied, but in the quiet spaces between stars, small changes rippled outward. On a distant station, an automated logistics system paused, unsure how to proceed without a human subroutine it had relied on for decades. On another world, energy distribution slowed by a fraction of a percent. Nothing dramatic yet. Humanity did not send messages. It did not protest publicly. It did not rally allies. It simply stepped back. In the council chamber, members argued over enforcement schedules and punishment displays. Few noticed that the flow of data supporting their discussions had grown slightly slower. No one yet understood what humanity had done, and no one yet realized that the blackmail had already failed. Far from the council, Myra Lee stood at the observation window of the human embassy ship. Stars drifted past, distant and silent. "They think power is something you take," she said quietly. Take Him stood beside her. "They forgot what happens when power is withdrawn." The ship continued on its course toward human space. Behind it, the galaxy moved forward. Unaware that it was about to stumble, Galaxy did not notice the change at first. Ships still traveled along the familiar lanes. Markets still opened at the same cycles. Council announcements continued to echo across shared networks. To most worlds, everything felt normal. But beneath the surface, the systems that held everything together had begun to loosen. In a council-controlled trade hub near the Orion Drift, cargo traffic slowed by a small margin. Docking permissions took longer to clear. Automated schedules hesitated, recalculated, then hesitated again. The station's overseers blamed routine delays and made minor adjustments. On another world, a medical distribution center reported that certain advanced treatments were arriving later than expected. No shortages yet, just delays. Across the galaxy, the pattern repeated. Small problems. Easy to ignore it at the heart of the Galactic Council station. Analysts gathered in layered control rooms, watching streams of data flow across vast displays. Most of the numbers still looked healthy. Trade volumes were strong. Energy output remained stable. Still, something felt wrong. A junior analyst adjusted his display and frowned. This routing algorithm isn't responding, he said. A senior overseer glanced over. Restart it. I tried, the analyst replied. It's not offline. It's just absent. The overseer waved a limb dismissively. Then replace it. We can't, the analyst said. It was integrated into the base architecture. The overseer paused. Integrated by whom? The analyst hesitated. By human contractors. Decades ago, the overseer's expression hardened. Then find the backup. There is no backup, the analyst said quietly. They built it to be self-correcting. Silence settled over the control room. Elsewhere on the station, council delegates argued over enforcement plans. Some wanted immediate demonstrations of power. Others preferred gradual pressure. They will fold, one delegate insisted. Every young species does. They are already withdrawing, another said. That is surrender. Few noticed that the room's translation latency had increased by a fraction of a second. Back in human space, the withdrawal continued. It was careful, precise. Every action followed plans written years earlier. Reviewed and revised by generations of planners who had assumed this moment might come. Admiral Day Choi stood in a quiet command center, hands resting on a simple console. The room was modest, functional, and filled with people who spoke only when necessary. Status, he said. Phase 1 complete, an officer replied. All civilian-facing systems disengaged. Any reaction? Confusion, the officer said. No coordinated response. Admiral Choi nodded. Proceed to Phase 2. On distant worlds, human specialists returned home. Engineers closed terminals they had not touched in years. Advisors resigned from positions of authority with polite messages and no explanation. In one system, a non-human governor watched as her human infrastructure director submitted his resignation. You are abandoning us? She demanded that the human shook his head. No, we are stepping away. That's the same thing, she said. He met her gaze. You will see the difference soon. Then he left. Without human oversight, systems still functioned, but not smoothly. Minor inefficiencies stacked upon one another. Small errors went uncorrected. On a border world, a defense grid failed to synchronize during a routine drill. No damage occurred, but the commanders took note. On a trade moon, automated negotiations stalled when predictive models could no longer agree. The galaxy began to slow. Not stop slow. In the council station's deepest archives, a historian named Cora Min reviewed old records at the request of a worried superior. She was not human, but she had studied humanity closely. She traced the origin of several critical systems: navigation aids, resource balancing networks, emergency response protocols. Again and again, the same mark appeared. Human design, built quietly, shared freely, never advertised. Cora felt a chill at the human embassy ship. Mira Lee received reports in silence. Each message confirmed the same truth. Humanity had not been dependent. It had been central. Any response from the council? She asked. Nothing official, Sun Park replied. They still believe we will submit. Mira looked out at the stars. They think silence means weakness. Sun nodded. They have not learned what patience can do. On the third standard day, the first real failure occurred. A major energy relay misaligned its output by a small margin. Automated safeguards prevented disaster. Power dropped across 4 systems for several hours. The council announced an investigation. Privately, panic spread. Emergency meetings were called. Engineers worked without rest. Replacement systems were rushed into place. None performed as expected. Why can't we fix this? One delegate demanded. Because the system is adapting, an engineer replied. But not to us. The delegate froze. Explain. It was designed to learn from human decision patterns, the engineer said. Without them, it is uncertain. Across the galaxy, independent worlds began to ask questions. Why were human advisors leaving? Why were systems failing only where humans had withdrawn? Why had humanity not made a single threat? On a neutral broadcast channel, a minor world leader spoke openly. Perhaps the council pushed too far. The statement was quickly suppressed, but others followed. The narrative began to shift. Humanity, once framed as reckless and ambitious, now appeared calm, silent, controlled, and the council began to look afraid. At the 72-hour mark, the council prepared to announce enforcement actions. Fleets were repositioned. Sanctions drafted. Moments before the announcement, several displays in the central chamber flickered. Not dark, just slower. Translation lag increased. Data feeds desensed. The council's voice attempted to speak. It paused, restarted, paused. Again, for the first time in its long history, the Galactic Council hesitated, far away on Earth. Admiral Choi watched the same moment unfold. "Hold," he said softly. The room obeyed. Humanity did not press its advantage. It waited, and across the galaxy, for the first time, silence felt heavy. Council officials stopped using the word delay and began using failure instead. Reports stacked up faster than they could be answered. Systems that had run without interruption for centuries now needed constant attention. And still, humanity said nothing. On the council station, emergency lights did not flash, and alarms did not scream. Everything looked normal to visitors. That was part of the problem. The failures were subtle, woven into the deepest layers of operation. A senior systems director stared at a screen filled with error messages that refused to resolve. These routines should not contradict each other. She said they never did before. Her assistant replied, "Then why are they doing it now?" The assistant hesitated. "Because the human moderation layer is gone." The director clenched her mandibles. "Restore it." "You can't," the assistant said. They took it with them, across the station. Translators struggled to keep pace as more council members spoke at once. Words overlapped. Meanings blurred. Misunderstandings spread. Tempers rose. "This is sabotage," one delegate declared. "No," another argued. "It is abandonment." Then force them back, a third demanded. But even as fleets shifted position, their coordination grew less precise. Jump windows misaligned by small margins. Supply estimates failed to match reality. Nothing collapsed. Everything strained. On a trade world far from the council core, a local market overseer watched as prices fluctuated wildly. "Why can't the models stabilize?" she asked. Her aide shook his head. The predictive balance system stopped updating. Who built it? The aide already knew the answer. Human, on Earth. The mood remained controlled. Admiral Day Choi walked through rows of analysts and engineers, each focused on narrow slices of a much larger picture. Screens showed slow curves, gentle drops, and widening gaps. "Are we pushing too hard?" A civilian advisor asked quietly. Admiral Choi stopped. "We are not pushing at all," he said. "We are letting go." The advisor nodded. Uneasy human fleets remained in place. Weapons stayed cold. Communications stayed open, but unused. The galaxy had expected rage. It received patience at the human embassy ship. Myra Lee stood before a small group of aides. They spoke in low voices, careful with every word. "Independent worlds are reaching out," one aide reported. Quietly. "What do they want?" Mira asked. "To understand," the aide said. "They are afraid the council will break before humanity does." Amira considered this. "Tell them we will not interfere," she said. "They must decide for themselves." Sun Park watched her closely. "That will scare them more," he said. "Yes," Mira replied. "But it will also show them who we are." Across council space, fear spread not through explosions, but through doubt. A mining consortium suspended operations after logistics software failed to predict shipment timing. A medical alliance postponed treatments due to unstable distribution schedules. Lives were not lost, but trust was. The council called an emergency closed session. Only core members were allowed to attend. "This situation is unacceptable," a senior delegate said. "We must compel humanity to restore their systems." "How?" another asked. Our leverage is already spent. Then we punish them, a third replied. Punish them with what? Came the response. Our fleets cannot even synchronize their supply chains. Silence followed, for the first time. The council confronted a truth it had long avoided. Humanity had been the glue, not the strongest. Military, not the largest empire. The quiet force that made complexity work in the archives. Cora Min continued her research. She compiled her findings into a report and sent it to a council. Oversight group. The response was immediate. This assessment is dangerous, the message read. It is accurate. Cora replied her access privileges were reduced within minutes on a border system. A council fleet attempted a demonstration of force. Ships aligned for a synchronized jump. 3 arrived late, 2 arrived early. The rest aborted the display intended to intimidate, instead exposed weakness. Observers noticed the story spread. On public channels, commentators spoke carefully, but the message was clear. The council was losing control, and humanity had not fired a single shot. At last, the council sent a message. It was not broadcast. It was private. The message reached the human embassy ship with full diplomatic encryption. Humanity, it said. You are destabilizing the galaxy. Myra Lee read it without expression. Sun Park stood beside her. They are trying to shift blame, he said. Yes, Mira replied. That means they are afraid. She drafted a response. It was short. Humanity has withdrawn its assets. No hostile action has been taken. The current state is a result of council choices. No threats, no demands. The message was sent. The council did not reply. Instead, systems continued to strain. On worlds that had once dismissed humanity as loud and aggressive, a new image formed. Humanity was calm. Humanity was disciplined. Humanity was dangerous in a way no fleet could counter. On Earth, Admiral Choi received updated projections. How long until Cascade? A subordinate asked. Admiral Choi studied the data. Weeks, he said. Maybe less. Do we stop it? He shook his head. We cannot stop what we did not start. Far away, the council chamber filled once more. The great voice tried to rise again, to speak with authority. It failed twice before stabilizing, when it finally spoke. The tone was different, uncertain. Humanity, it called? Opening a public channel for the first time since the ultimatum, there was no immediate answer. The galaxy leaned forward. Seconds passed. Then Mira Lee's image appeared. Calm and steady. We are listening, she said. The council hesitated. In that hesitation, the balance of power shifted, and everyone felt it. The public channel opened across the galaxy. For the first time in living memory, the Galactic Council did not control the timing, the framing, or the meaning of the moment. Worlds paused their routines. Ships held position. Broadcasters switched feeds with a UT, knowing why Mira Lee's image appeared. Clear and steady. She did not wear symbols of rank or power. She stood in a simple room, light falling evenly across her face. Her voice carried without force. We are speaking now because silence has done its work, she said. The council chamber was quiet. Delegates who had once spoken over one another now waited. Unsure, Mira continued. The council accused humanity of destabilizing the galaxy. This is not true. Humanity withdrew its own labor, its own systems, and its own people. Nothing more. Images appeared beside her. Trade hubs reverting to neutral. Engineers departing with proper notice. Systems logging out by design. We did not attack. We did not sabotage. We did not threaten, she said. We simply stepped back. Across thousands of worlds, leaders leaned closer to their screens. For generations, Myra said, humanity was encouraged to build, to connect, to solve problems others avoided. We did so openly, freely, without ownership claims. Images shifted again. Records, contracts, design credits buried deep in archives. When the council chose blackmail, she said, it assumed dependence ran only one way. The words landed softly. They landed hard. A council delegate interrupted. You are accusing us. Mira raised one hand. The channel priority shifted. We are explaining, she said calmly. The delegate fell silent. Humanity will not accept limits imposed through fear, Mira said. We will not submit to control disguised as stability. She paused. And we will not destroy the systems we helped create. The galaxy still needs them. A murmur spread. If that is true, a neutral world representative asked, then why is everything failing? Mira met the question directly. Because complexity requires care, she said, and care cannot be forced. The channel remained open. The council did not cut it. Behind Mira, unseen by the galaxy, Sun Park monitored responses. Signals spiked. Independent relays opened. Messages flooded in, fear, relief, hope. On the council station, order began to crack. Delegates argued openly now. Accusations flew. You pushed them, one said. You. Agreed, another replied. Our authority is? Collapsing, a third warned. Factions formed in real time, some demanded immediate concessions. Others called for force. But force required coordination, and coordination was failing. On a border world, a regional council voted to suspend adherence to Galactic Council directives until stability returned. They cited operational uncertainty. The announcement spread, another world followed, then another. Humanity did not encourage this, it did not need to. Back on Earth, Admiral Dechoi watched the broadcast in silence. They are choosing, an aide said. Yes, Admiral Choi replied. That is the point. Human fleets remain still, defensive only. Observers noted the restraint. On several worlds, human citizens were asked to stay, to help. To fix the problems, they declined politely. We no longer have authority, they said. The words echoed. Authority, it shifted. The council attempted one final measure. A unified statement drafted quickly, proved under pressure. It appeared on public channels. The Galactic Council recognizes the value of humanity's contributions. We propose renewed cooperation under revised terms. The galaxy waited, Mira. Lee read the message. She did not smile. She responded with a single broadcast. Cooperation requires consent, she said. Not threats. Not leverage. She let the silence return. Then she spoke again. Humanity is open to dialogue, but only as an equal. The council's message feeds erupted. Some delegates protested. Others quietly agreed. The fracture became visible. A group of mid-level council species announced they would begin bilateral talks with humanity. Outside council authority, the council protested. No one listened. Across the galaxy, systems did not collapse. They adapted, slowly, painfully. Worlds learned how much they had relied on human mediation. Some asked for help. Humanity did not rush. Aid came with conditions. Transparency shared. Responsibility, no central control. On a small trade world, a human engineer returned, not as a council employee, but as an invited partner. Systems stabilized, the lessons spread. At the council station, the great chamber felt smaller. The voice that once spoke with certainty now sounded strained. We request humanity's assistance, it said, carefully avoiding old language. Myra Lee's reply was calm. We will assist where trust exists, she said, not where obedience is demanded. The galaxy understood. This was not rebellion. It was rebalancing. On Earth, leaders prepared for the next phase. Not expansion. Not conquest definition. Humanity would choose where to stand and where not to. As the broadcast ended, stars continued to burn. Ships resumed motion. Worlds adjusted their plans. Nothing exploded. Everything changed, in quiet rooms across the galaxy. A shared realization took hold. The age of unquestioned authority was over, and humanity had ended it without firing a single shot. It was not peace in the old sense. It was adjustment. Trade routes reopened in new patterns. Worlds spoke directly to one another without waiting for council approval. Small treaties formed, then larger ones, built on clear terms and shared responsibility. The Galactic Council still existed, but it no longer stood at the center. Its chamber was half full. Delegates arrived without ceremony. The great voice no longer spoke first. Meetings took longer and ended with fewer decisions. On one such cycle, the Council sent a formal request to humanity, not a demand. A request. The message was delivered to Earth and to every human embassy at the same time. It asked for assistance in restoring stability to shared systems and proposed talks without preconditions. Myra Lee read the message carefully. Words matter, she said. Sun Park nodded. They learned that late. On Earth, leaders gathered once more in the secure room beneath the surface. Admiral Day Choi stood at the center, listening as civilian and military advisors spoke in turn. They want us back. One said, they want our systems. Another added, they want legitimacy. A third concluded. Admiral Choi raised a hand. They want balance, he said. And so do we. The decision was unanimous. Humanity would engage, but not return. A reply was sent. Humanity agreed to help stabilize critical systems on a voluntary basis. Human engineers would return as partners, not overseers. All designs would be shared openly. No single body would hold final authority. The Council hesitated. Then it accepted. Across the galaxy, the announcement spread. Some worlds celebrated, others worried. Most watched closely. Human teams began traveling again. Not under Council banners, but under neutral markers. They worked alongside local specialists, explaining systems instead of managing them. Progress was slow, but it held. On a medical world near the rim, supply chains stabilized after weeks of careful adjustment. On a trade hub, predictive models were rebuilt with shared input from multiple species. The galaxy learned to walk without a single hand guiding it. At the Council station, a smaller session was convened. Myra Lee attended in person. She stood on the central platform once more. The chamber felt different now. Less grand. More honest. We are here to define what comes next, she said. A delegate spoke. You broke our control. Myra did not deny it. We removed a dependency, she said. There is a difference, another delegate asked. What does humanity want? Myra considered the question. Clarity, she said. Consent. And the freedom to say no. Silence followed. Then a quiet acknowledgement. Outside the chamber, independent worlds watched the session through open channels. The transparency itself was new. Back on Earth, Admiral Choi reviewed reports showing slow but steady recovery across Council space. We could have ruled them, Nade said quietly. Admiral Choi shook his head. Ruling is heavy, he said. Balance lasts longer. Human fleets began repositioning, not forward, but outward, maintaining distance and readiness without pressure. The message was clear. Humanity was present, not dominant, not absent. Present by choice. Over time, the term Galactic Council faded from common speech. It became one body among many, consulted rather than obeyed. New forums formed. Some failed. Others endured. Mistakes were made. They were corrected together. In the archives of 100 worlds, historians began recording the events. They argued over causes and consequences, over pride and fear, but they agreed on one point. The turning moment was not a battle. It was a refusal. On the anniversary of the ultimatum, Myra Lee stood once more at a window, stars drifting past. Sun Park joined her. They still don't fully understand, he said. They don't need to, Myra replied. They just need to remember. What? That cooperation is a gift, she said, not a leash. On Earth, children learned about the moment in simple terms. Humanity had been threatened. Humanity had stepped back. The galaxy had learned no heroes with weapons, no burning worlds, just patience. Years later, when a new species made first contact and asked how humanity had risen so quickly, the answer was not about strength or intelligence. It was about restraint. The galaxy continued on, wider and less certain, but more honest than before, and humanity remained what it had chosen to be, not rulers of the stars, but partners among them. The changes did not end with balance. Balance was only the beginning. As the galaxy adjusted to life without a single controlling center, new problems appeared. They were not caused by collapse or war, but by freedom. Worlds that had relied on council rules now had to make their own choices. Some chose wisely, others did not. On a distant system near the outer spiral, a regional alliance failed within weeks. Trade partners argued. Defense agreements broke down. Without clear coordination, piracy returned to routes once considered safe. The news spread quickly. Many looked toward humanity. On Earth, ports gathered again on quiet screens. Admiral De Choi read them carefully. "They are testing the space between order and chaos," he said. "Will we intervene?" An aide asked. Admiral Choi shook his head. "Only if asked. And only to help them stand, not to lean." Humanity had learned its lesson well. Across human space, embassies received messages from worlds unsure of their footing. The requests were cautious, respectful, very different from the old demands once issued by the Council. Mira Lee reviewed them one by one. "They are afraid of replacing one ruler with another," Sun Park observed, "as they should be." Mira replied. One request stood out. A cluster of smaller species, once ignored by the Council, asked humanity to help them form a shared forum. Not a government. Just a place to speak. Mira approved it. The forum met for the first time on a neutral station. No grand chamber. No towering symbols. Just a simple ring of seats in clear translation. Human representatives, tended as listeners, not leaders. The meeting was slow. Painfully so. Disagreements surfaced immediately, but something important happened. No one was silenced. Elsewhere, the old council struggled to redefine itself. Its remaining members debated structure, limits, irrelevance. Some wanted to reclaim authority. Others wanted to dissolve entirely. The final decision surprised many. The council voted to restrict its own power. It would serve as an archive, a mediator and a warning system, nothing more. The vote passed by a narrow margin. When the announcement reached the galaxy, reactions were mixed. Skepticism was high. Humanity responded with silence. Not approval, not rejection, just observation. On the mid-level industrial world, human engineers completed their final advisory cycle and prepared to leave. "Stay," the local administrator asked. "We will pay." The lead engineer shook her head. "That is not the agreement," she said. "You can manage now." The administrator looked uncertain. "And if we fail, then you learn." The engineer replied gently. The ship departed. The world did not collapse. It struggled, then adapted. Across the galaxy, this pattern repeated. Where humanity stepped back, others stepped forward. Not perfectly, but honestly. Years passed, the memory of the ultimatum faded. But the lesson remained. Young species entering galactic space were warned not about humanity's weapons, but about its patience. "They will not fight you," the warning went, "but they will let you face yourself." On Earth, the next generation studied interstellar relations differently. Strategy focused less on dominance and more on resilience. Admiral Choi retired quietly. His replacement did not change. Policy, in human space, expansion slowed by choice. Colonies grew carefully. Technology was shared, but never centralized. One day, a message arrived from the former council archives. It was simple. "We would like to record humanity's account," Irely agreed. She stood before an archive terminal. No audience, no broadcast. The council tried to control what it did not understand, she said. Humanity responded by removing itself from the equation. She paused. The galaxy learned that strength is not always visible. Sometimes it is the ability to walk away. The archive recorded her words. Far beyond the core worlds, a new species watched humanity from a distance. They studied its history and drew the wrong conclusion. They believed humanity was gentle. They would learn later. For now, the galaxy was quieter, wider, less certain, and humanity remained exactly where it wanted to be, free.